in a quaint village nestled amidst rolling hills and golden wheat fields, there lived a humble miller's son named Peter. Though kind-hearted and hard-working, Peter had fallen on hard times since the passing of his father, leaving him with nothing but his father's old mill and a faithful but scruffy cat named Whiskers. One day, as Peter lamented his misfortune, Whiskers padded up to him with a gleam in his eye. "Fear not, my dear friend," the cat exclaimed. "I have a plan to change our fortunes for the better." Intrigued by Whiskers' confidence, Peter listened intently as the cat outlined his scheme. With cunning and wit, Whiskers would pose as a grand lord's pet and win favor with the king, using his charm and guile to secure wealth and prosperity for Peter. Though skeptical at first, Peter agreed to Whiskers' plan, knowing that he had nothing to lose. And so, with a new sense of purpose, they set off for the grand palace, where the king's court was abuzz with gossip and intrigue. As they approached the palace gates, Whiskers transformed into a dashing feline nobleman, his fur gleaming in the sunlight. With a regal strut, he sauntered into the palace, drawing gasps of admiration from all who beheld him. Intrigued by the sight of such a magnificent cat, the king's courtiers welcomed Whiskers with open arms, eager to curry favor with his noble owner. And as Whiskers regaled them with tales of his master's bravery and wisdom, Peter watched in amazement from the shadows, his heart swelling with pride. But Whiskers' true test came when the king himself summoned him to his throne room, seeking counsel on matters of state. With grace and eloquence, Whiskers spun tales of daring adventures and heroic deeds, impressing the king with his wisdom and wit. In gratitude for Whiskers' sage advice, the king bestowed upon Peter great riches and honors, elevating him to a position of wealth and influence within the kingdom. And as Peter stood before the king, his loyal companion by his side, he knew that he owed it all to the cleverness and cunning of his faithful friend, Whiskers the cat. From that day forth, Peter and Whiskers lived in luxury and comfort, their days filled with laughter and joy. And though they had started from humble beginnings, they had proved that with courage, cunning, and the bond of friendship, even the lowest of peasants could rise to greatness in the eyes of kings and noblemen alike. In a kingdom shrouded in mystery and guarded by towering mountains, there stood a grand castle known as Sapphire Castle. Its walls were adorned with shimmering blue stones that sparkled like stars in the night sky, earning the castle its name and reputation as the most beautiful in all the land. But behind the facade of beauty and grandeur lay a dark secret, one that had haunted the castle for generations. For within its walls lived a wealthy nobleman named Lord Azurite, known far and wide as Bluebeard for his striking blue beard and his sinister reputation. Lord Azurite had been married many times, yet each of his wives had mysteriously disappeared without a trace, leaving behind nothing but rumors and whispers of foul play. Despite his dark reputation, many noble women still sought his hand in marriage, drawn by the promise of wealth and luxury that Sapphire Castle offered. One day, a young woman named Alara arrived at Sapphire Castle, her heart filled with hope and trepidation as she prepared to become Lord Azurite's new bride. Though warned of the castle's dark history, Alara believed that her love could conquer any darkness that lay within its walls. But as the days passed, Alara grew increasingly curious about the locked door at the end of the hallway, forbidden to her by Lord Azurite's strict orders. Unable to resist the allure of the forbiddance, she found herself drawn to the door like a moth to a flame, her curiosity overwhelming her fear. One fateful night, while Lord Azurite was away on business, Alara's curiosity got the better of her, and she ventured into the forbiddance room. To her horror, she discovered a chamber filled with the lifeless bodies of Lord Azurite's former wives, their eyes wide with terror and their faces frozen in expressions of agony. Realizing the true extent of Lord Azurite's evil deeds, Alara knew that she had to escape Sapphire Castle before she became another victim of his dark desires. Gathering her courage, she fled into the night, leaving behind the horrors of Sapphire Castle and vowing to never return. As she journeyed far from the castle, Alara stumbled upon a group of travelers who took her in and offered her shelter and protection. With their help, she found a new home far away from the darkness of Sapphire Castle, where she lived out the rest of her days in peace and happiness. And though the memory of Lord Azurite and his dark deeds haunted her dreams, Alara knew that she had escaped a fate far worse than death, her courage and resilience shining like a beacon of hope in the darkness. In a bustling city by the sea, there stood a grand toy shop filled with wonders of all kinds. Among its treasures was a brave tin soldier, tall and steadfast, with a single leg made of tin and a heart filled with courage. The tin soldier stood proudly in his box, surrounded by his fellow toys, but his gaze was fixed on a delicate paper ballerina perched on a music box nearby. Her graceful form and gentle smile captivated him, and he longed to be by her side. One fateful day, a mischievous boy bought the tin soldier and placed him on a windowsill overlooking the bustling street below. But as fate would have it, a sudden gust of wind swept the tin soldier off the windowsill and into the rushing river below. Undeterred by the raging waters, the tin soldier remained steadfast, his heart filled with determination to find his way back to the toy shop and to the paper ballerina he loved. And though he faced many perils along the way, from hungry fish to treacherous currents, he pressed on, guided by his unwavering resolve. As the days turned into weeks, the tin soldier journeyed far and wide, his single tin leg carrying him through the darkest depths of the river and the stormiest seas. And though his body grew battered and worn, his spirit remained unbroken, fueled by his love for the paper ballerina. But just as he was on the verge of giving up hope, the tin soldier spotted a familiar sight on the riverbank, the toy shop where he had once lived. With a surge of determination, he swam towards shore, his heart filled with joy at the prospect of being reunited with his beloved ballerina. But as he reached the riverbank, disaster struck. The mischievous boy spotted the tin soldier and, mistaking him for a mere plaything, tossed him into the fireplace, where he was consumed by flames. As the tin soldier melted away, his heart filled with sadness, he caught a final glimpse of the paper ballerina perched on the music box nearby. And though his body may have been destroyed, his love for her endured, a testament to the steadfastness of his heart. And so, in the toy shop by the sea, it was said that the tin soldier's love for the paper ballerina transcended even the fiercest of trials, proving that true love knows no bounds, not even those of tin and fire. In a kingdom where kindness reigned supreme and compassion was cherished above all else, there lived a wise king named Alaric. His kingdom prospered under his rule, for he governed with fairness and generosity, and his subjects lived in harmony and peace. One day, as King Alaric wandered through the bustling marketplace, he overheard a group of villagers arguing amongst themselves. Each one believed their own needs and desires to be the most important, and they could not see past their own selfishness to find a resolution. Concerned by what he had witnessed, King Alaric called upon his council of advisors to help him devise a solution to the problem. Together, they pondered the issue late into the night, until at last, they came upon an idea that they believed would bring harmony back to the kingdom. The next morning, King Alaric announced to his subjects that he would be enacting a new law, the Golden Rule. This rule stated that every person in the kingdom must treat others as they would like to be treated themselves, with kindness, respect, and empathy. At first, some of the villagers scoffed at the idea, believing it to be too simplistic to solve their problems. But as they witnessed the changes taking place around them, they soon realized the power of the Golden Rule. Neighbors began helping one another without expecting anything in return. Strangers showed kindness to those in need, and even the animals of the forest seemed to behave with greater compassion towards one another. And as the days turned into weeks and the weeks turned into months, the kingdom flourished like never before. People from far and wide traveled to witness the marvel of King Alaric's kingdom, where love and understanding prevailed over greed and selfishness. From that day forth, the Golden Rule became the guiding principle of King Alaric's kingdom, a reminder to all that true happiness could only be found through acts of kindness and generosity towards others. And though challenges may arise, as long as the people of the kingdom followed the golden rule, they knew that they would always find their way back to the path of harmony and peace. In a quaint village nestled amidst rolling hills and verdant meadows, there lived an elderly couple named Ivan and Olga. Despite their advanced years, Ivan and Olga's hearts were filled with boundless energy and a love for the land they tended. One day, while working in their garden, Ivan stumbled upon a curious sight: a turnip of such enormous size that it seemed to defy the laws of nature. With a hearty laugh, Ivan called out to Olga, and together they set to work trying to unearth the gargantuan vegetable. But no matter how hard they pulled and tugged, the turnip remained firmly rooted in the earth, refusing to budge even an inch. Undeterred by the challenge, Ivan and Olga enlisted the help of their neighbors, calling upon them to lend their strength to the task at hand. One by one, the villagers came to Ivan and Olga's aid, each lending their hands to the effort to free the enormous turnip from the earth. With a mighty heave and a chorus of cheers, they finally succeeded in pulling the turnip from the ground, its massive form gleaming in the sunlight like a prize won in battle. Overjoyed by their success, Ivan and Olga invited the entire village to join them in a feast to celebrate their extraordinary harvest. The villagers gathered around the table, their plates piled high with hearty dishes made from the turnip's tender flesh. As they ate and drank and danced beneath the stars, Ivan and Olga realized the true power of community and cooperation. For it was not through their own strength alone that they had succeeded in pulling the enormous turnip from the earth, but through the combined efforts of all who had come together in a spirit of unity and friendship. And though the turnip may have been the largest ever seen in the village, it was the bonds of love and companionship forged on that day that would forever remain the truest and most enduring harvest of all. In a quaint seaside village where the waves whispered secrets to the shore, there lived a humble fisherman named Hans. Each day, Hans would cast his nets into the sparkling waters, hoping for a catch to provide for his beloved wife, Greta, and their small cottage by the sea. One day, as Hans sat upon the rocky shore, his line suddenly grew taut, and he pulled in the most magnificent fish he had ever seen, a shimmering creature with scales as silver as the moonlight. But before Hans could release it back into the sea, the fish spoke in a voice as clear as the ringing of bells. "Please spare my life," begged the fish, "and I shall grant you any wish your heart desires." Hans, taken aback by the fish's unexpected plea, hesitated for a moment before replying, "I wish for nothing more than my wife Greta's happiness and contentment." With a flick of its tail, the fish vanished beneath the waves, leaving Hans to wonder if it had all been a dream. Yet, when he returned home to Greta and told her of the miraculous encounter, she urged him to make a wish for something grander. "I wish for a cozy cottage where we can live in comfort and peace," Hans declared, thinking of Greta's tired hands and weary smile. To Hans' amazement, the fish granted his wish, and in the blink of an eye, their simple cottage was transformed into a splendid home with a thatched roof and a garden blooming with flowers. But as the days passed, Greta's desire for more grew insatiable. "We must ask for even greater riches," she insisted, her eyes gleaming with greed. Reluctantly, Hans returned to the shore and called out to the fish once more, requesting a grand mansion fit for royalty. And once again, the fish granted his wish, and Hans and Greta found themselves living in opulence beyond their wildest dreams. Yet, Greta's thirst for power knew no bounds. "We must become rulers of this land," she declared, her voice echoing with ambition. Hans, troubled by his wife's newfound greed, returned to the shore and begged the fish to make them king and queen. But as the fish granted their wish, the sea churned with anger, and a mighty storm swept across the land, washing away their mansion and leaving them with nothing but the humble cottage they had started with. Humbled by their folly, Hans and Greta realized the true value of contentment and gratitude. And though they may not have lived in grandeur, they found happiness in the simple pleasures of life by the sea, where the waves sang lullabies and the seagulls danced in the sky. In a land where winter lingered long and spring struggled to bloom, there stood a grand garden encircled by towering walls. Within this garden, nestled amidst frost-kissed trees and silent meadows, lived a selfish giant. The giant had long ago closed his heart and his garden to the children who once played there, driving them away with harsh words and icy glares. He guarded his precious garden with fierce determination, and willing to share its beauty with anyone but himself. As the seasons passed, the garden fell into disarray, its once vibrant flowers withering beneath the weight of the giant's selfishness. Only the smallest corner of the garden remained untouched by frost, a patch of earth where a single bird had built its nest. One day, as the giant roamed his barren garden, he heard the joyful laughter of children drifting on the wind. Curious, he peered over the wall and saw a sight that filled him with both wonder and longing. Children playing amidst the flowers, their laughter like music in the air. But instead of welcoming them, the giant chased the children away, his voice booming with anger and resentment. And as they fled, the last remnants of warmth vanished from the garden, leaving it colder and lonelier than ever before. That night, as the giant lay in bed, he heard a gentle rustling outside his window. Peering out, he beheld a miraculous sight. The flowers were blooming once more, their petals unfurling beneath the touch of 1,000 tiny hands. Moved by the selflessness of the children, the giant's heart softened, and he realized the error of his ways. With tears in his eyes, he tore down the walls of his garden, welcoming the children back with open arms. From that day forth, the garden flourished with new life, its once barren earth transformed into a paradise of laughter and love. And though the giant remained a solitary figure, his heart was filled with the warmth of friendship and the joy of giving. And so, the tale of the selfish giant became a legend in the land, a timeless reminder of the power of kindness to thaw even the coldest of hearts and bring new life to the most barren of gardens. Once upon a time, in a quaint village nestled amidst rolling hills and whispering forests, there lived a humble shoemaker named Tobias. Tobias was known far and wide for his skillful hands and his dedication to his craft, but despite his talents, times were tough, and he struggled to make ends meet. One cold winter's night, as Tobias sat by the fire, mending a worn-out pair of shoes, he lamented his dwindling fortunes. With a heavy sigh, he placed the shoes aside and retired to bed, hoping for a brighter tomorrow. But when he awoke the next morning, Tobias could scarcely believe his eyes. The shoes he had left by the hearth were now gleaming like new, adorned with intricate stitches and delicate patterns that he could never have created on his own. Perplexed and astonished, Tobias searched the house for clues, but found none. It was as if the shoes had been enchanted by some unseen magic, their transformation a mystery beyond his comprehension. Night after night, the same miraculous occurrence repeated itself, each morning revealing a new pair of shoes more beautiful than the last. And though Tobias tried to stay awake to catch a glimpse of the mysterious shoemakers at work, he always found himself drifting off to sleep, lulled by the crackling fire and the soft rustle of fabric. Determined to uncover the truth, Tobias devised a plan. He stayed awake one night, hiding behind a curtain as he waited for the mysterious visitors to appear. And sure enough, as the clock struck midnight, a pair of tiny elves emerged from the shadows, their tiny hands deftly weaving through the threads as they worked their magic on the shoes. Amazed by what he saw, Tobias stepped forward, revealing himself to the elves. At first, the elves were startled by his presence, but when they saw the kindness in Tobias's eyes, they knew they had nothing to fear. Grateful for their help, Tobias offered the elves a warm place by the fire and a hearty meal, inviting them to stay with him and his family. And though the elves were hesitant at first, they soon came to love their new home, filling it with laughter and joy. From that day forth, Tobias's shoemaking business flourished, his shoes coveted by all who saw them. And though the villagers marveled at his skill, only Tobias and the elves knew the true secret behind his success, that sometimes magic can be found in the most unexpected of places, and that kindness and gratitude are the greatest gifts of all. Once upon a time in a bustling port city by the shimmering sea, there lived a brave and adventurous sailor named Sinbad. He was renowned far and wide for his daring voyages and thrilling tales of adventure. Sinbad was not born into riches or nobility, but he possessed a heart filled with courage and a spirit hungry for the unknown. From a young age, he felt the call of the open sea, its vastness beckoning to him like a siren's song. One fateful day, Sinbad embarked on his greatest journey yet, setting sail aboard his majestic ship. With the wind at his back and the salty spray of the ocean on his face, he charted a course for distant lands and untold treasures. His first stop was the Island of Giants, a place shrouded in mystery and danger. As Sinbad and his crew ventured ashore, they were met by towering figures with fierce faces and thunderous voices. Yet, through cunning and quick thinking, Sinbad managed to outsmart the giants and escape with precious jewels and ancient artifacts in tow. Next, Sinbad sailed to the Enchanted Isle, where mystical creatures roamed and magic hung heavy in the air. Here, he encountered mermaids with voices that could enchant the very waves and dragons that guarded hidden treasures in their lairs. But with his wits and bravery, Sinbad overcame every obstacle, proving himself a true hero of the high seas. But the greatest trial of Sinbad's journey came when he faced the dreaded sea serpent, a fearsome beast that terrorized sailors and devoured ships whole. With his crew quaking in fear, Sinbad stood tall, his heart unyielding against the beast's wrath. In a battle that shook the very foundations of the ocean, Sinbad and the sea serpent clashed, each refusing to back down. Yet, in the end, it was Sinbad's courage and determination that prevailed, as he vanquished the serpent and saved his crew from certain doom. As word of Sinbad's exploits spread across the seven seas, he became a legend, celebrated in song and story for generations to come. And though his adventures were many and his challenges great, Sinbad the sailor sailed on, his spirit forever bound to the boundless horizon and the promise of new adventures yet to come. Once upon a time, in a quaint village nestled between rugged mountains and whispering forests, there lived a humble family. Among them was a young maiden named Astrid, whose beauty was as radiant as the northern lights that danced across the sky. Yet, despite her enchanting presence, Astrid harbored a deep sadness, for her family had fallen on hard times. One frosty evening, as Astrid gazed out of her window, she spotted a magnificent white bear roaming the snowy landscape. To her surprise, the bear approached the cottage and stood before her, its eyes gleaming with an otherworldly wisdom. "I have come to ask for your help," the bear spoke in a voice as gentle as a winter breeze. "Deep in the heart of the enchanted forest lies a castle, ruled by a wicked enchantress. She has placed a curse upon me, transforming me into this form. Only the love of a pure-hearted maiden can break the spell." Though hesitant, Astrid felt a stirring in her heart, sensing a chance to change her fate. With a solemn vow, she agreed to accompany the bear on his quest to break the curse. Thus, under the light of the silvery moon, Astrid embarked on a journey beyond the known realms of her world. Together, they traversed treacherous mountains, crossed raging rivers, and ventured deep into the heart of the enchanted forest. At last, they reached the castle shrouded in mist and magic. Inside, they found the enchantress, a formidable figure cloaked in darkness. With steely determination, Astrid confronted the enchantress, her courage shining brighter than any star in the night sky. In a climactic battle of wills, Astrid faced trials of fire and ice, overcoming each obstacle with unwavering resolve. With each victory, the enchantress's power waned until, at last, the curse was broken, and the white bear stood before Astrid in his true form, a handsome prince with eyes as blue as the clearest summer sky. Grateful beyond words, the prince pledged his eternal devotion to Astrid, offering her a life of love and prosperity in his kingdom. And so, they journeyed back to the village, where Astrid's family rejoiced at her triumphant return. In the years that followed, Astrid and the prince ruled their kingdom with wisdom and compassion, their love a beacon of hope for all who beheld it. And though their adventures were but a distant memory, the tale of the maiden who journeyed east of the sun and west of the moon lived on, inspiring generations with its message of courage, love, and the enduring power of the human spirit.